This podcast centers Reverend Victor Demond Tate as one of several Black men's voices in advancing Black feminism in public health. Reverend Victor Tate is a native of Atlanta, Georgia, and received his primary education in the Atlanta public school system and graduated from Archer High School, also my alma mater. Some 7 years apart, Reverend Tate and I reconnected through our involvement with the Atlanta Black Jewish Coalition's Project Understanding. Reverend Tate completed undergraduate studies at Morehouse College with a degree in business administration and has held corporate and government positions in business administration. Reverend Tate also holds a Master's of Divinity degree from Princeton University and is currently pursuing a Doctorate of Ministry degree while serving as the senior pastor of First Mount Pleasant Baptist Church of East Atlanta. He is the chairman of the governing board for the Ivy Preparatory Academy Charter School Network, and we are part of what is affectionately known as the First Family, as he is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, the oldest and most prestigious fraternity. Listen in as Reverend Tate and I discuss the significance of creating a safe space for Black boys and men to be heard. We also highlight the historic trauma of slavery and social programs that penalize Black men's presence in the lives of Black women and children. And we wrap up the conversation with Reverend Tate providing insights on what it meant to be mentored by former Atlanta Mayor Maynard Jackson.
Right at the outset of this, right? You have this acronym, this model of respect, right? And it really hit me because what's more, I think one of the greatest ways in which men in particular gauge respect is by being genuinely listened to and heard. At the end of the day, just being heard, listen to me, right? Without wanting to fix me, without
I'll finish my sentences. I'm sorry.
But without wanting to fix, but just to listen, right? The power of just creating a space for men to talk, right? So often we get there is this perception that exists that a lot of men aren't emotionally expressive, that a lot of men aren't open with their emotions. And I would suggest that one of the reasons that's the case is because perhaps men don't feel as if they have been made comfortable, feeling as if what they have to say, there is real space for it to actually be heard and respected, right? Do you really want to hear what we have to say of all of those things that we've got bottled inside of us, all of those challenges that we're constantly working through, what it means to be men and Black men in particular in this society where it seems as if we've got so many different things coming against us, right? So we're always in the mode of calculating what it means to show up in family, what it means to show up at work, what it means to show up socially, what it means to show up spiritually, what it means to show up as fathers, whether biological or whether you are in some surrogate, form of fatherhood, right? And so we're always trying to figure out what that looks like because, as you know, we have the challenge of having to, in some ways, figure out how to best show up depending on what the setting is. So that respect is one of the major ways that we're able to show men and create a space for men to be able to show up. Is to just listen.
And I would argue, and you can set me straight on this, but as a historian myself and a sociologist, I trace the trauma back to slavery in that when men showed up emotionally for their women and their children, the oppressor abused them and exploited those emotions.
True.
So in order for me to be able to keep the woman that I choose and the children that I bore in my area, I gotta act like I'm not even interested in them.
Yeah, absolutely. Subservience
Yes.
as protection,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Learning, literally, that whole idea of learning when to hold them and when to fold them, right? Knowing when to mask masculinity, right? For the sake of the greater good, for the sake of the family. I'll ramp that up a little bit. To some of our context, right? I think about being raised in the projects, right? Techwood homes. I tell the story, we born in Techwood and moved on up to Perry Homes, right? But think about how back in those days, in order for women to keep their housing vouchers and public assistance and things of that sort, one of the prerequisites was that a man couldn't be in the house, couldn't be there. And so talk about being penalized for your presence, right? Because your presence alone, whether or not you wanted to have relationship with those children, again, whether they were yours biologically or, whether you were in some form of surrogacy there, your presence was penalized. They could lose their apartment for having a man there, right? So that notion that you mentioned is so spot on about how mentoring, and that mentoring is so important. You have so many different programs that you do, your gyms and all of those, right? Where you are intentional about that mentorship piece, and that's so important. But one of the things that's important for us to realize is that there is no real impact without contact. And so you mentioned the space and opportunities for us now, for those of us who not necessarily have made it, but who are conscious enough.
We are becoming, as Michelle Obama.
Becoming.
That's right. Becoming.
That's right. That's right. For those of us who are becoming, to understand right now is an opportunity for us to be intentional about grabbing somebody, having some real contact in some others' lives, so that we can have impact and to provide for them some of those things that we wish others had provided for us in a holistic way, right? As you mentioned before, we are the exceptions and not the rules. And I would suggest, because there were individuals in our lives that made it their absolute priority to have contact with us that impacted our lives in some major ways. That made all the difference. It really did.
Absolutely. Let's not be shy about it. The world needs to know that, our mentors, yours was Maynard Jackson.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Yep, absolutely.
Mayor of Atlanta.
Absolutely.
And businessman extraordinaire.
Absolutely.
His own children and all of that.
Absolutely.
But he found time to be in personal contact with you.
Yeah. Well, think about that. I mean, in Perry Homes, back in 1992, Mayor Jackson's in his second term as mayor. And he looks out, and I'm sure he's thinking about legacy and all of that. But at the end of the day, just probably asking the question, what can I do, right? What's within my reach? And that's important, side note, because so often we don't feel like we've got enough right now to offer. But the reality is you do. Whatever little bit you have, it's worth it to somebody else. And so I imagine Maynard being in that space of what can I do? May not have, unlimited dollars, but what can I do right now? And he started his youth foundation, went into the high schools in Atlanta public schools, and went to principals and said, hey, I want students with a spark of leadership. And I understand that was his requirement. So I don't necessarily want the best of the best, because often they get opportunities, but those who outside of this may not have the opportunity. Now here's the reality. At my school, there was a group of us that got, we were selected for everything. From the
boys talented
the debate team, we did it all. There were about 8 of us. And so anything that came down the pike, it was like, y'all get the
And it's funny, y'all still hang out together. I see y'all on Facebook. When you preach, I see them come over to the church.
Yeah, so that's what impact does. I mean, it creates a different level of community and family. But Maynard did that, and for 2 weekends a month, 2 Saturdays a month, while the sitting mayor of Atlanta, with his own family, young children of his own, 2 Saturdays a month, we came together in that youth foundation, classroom from 9 to 12. We'd get there at 8, and they'd have Krispy Kreme and Dunkin' Donuts and all of that, and we'd come in and greet it at 9 o'clock flat. 9 o'clock sharp, Maynard would start to teach us, and from 9 to 12. He just taught out of the reservoir of his own experiences. And needless to say, we were like just little sponges taking it all in. This was the sitting mayor of the city of Atlanta who was taking this opportunity twice a month, 2 Saturdays a month. And not only did we sit there in instruction for 3 hours, 9 to 12, then every Saturday he'd take us to one of the, really nice restaurants in the city, whether it was, the Capitol
And there it is.
Grill.
That's why you're about to find me in life.
He exposed us, right? From Pascal's to, Capitol Grill, you name it, and everything in between, because he was doing what was within his power to have contact with us, and that impact is still felt in our lives to this very day. And all of those graduates of the Maynard Jackson Youth Foundation have pledged themselves to doing the same thing for others, giving back, because that's a part of it. Maynard would say, do not be one of these folk that get all you can all you get, and sit on your can.
Wow.
And I think about